Novi Community Church. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday so far. Hopefully throughout the week you had a chance to kind of, look at the pace of your life and hopefully maybe slow things down a little bit. I know it's pretty slow all around right now, especially with everybody being either isolated or quarantined. People can start to feel a little isolated as well. Make sure you're checking on your neighbor. Make sure you're connecting with people from your small group. If you're not in a small group, and hey, this might not be the worst time to join one. Maybe that'll be your new normal. Get a hold of one of the deacons or elders, or even put on your connection card. We would appreciate if you fill out your connection card today, the digital one. That'll give us just a record of your attendance and kind of, give us another way to interact with you. All right. A couple things, Easy Tithe is still available. There's the COVID-19 fund, General Church Giving Fund, and a couple other tabs on there as well. Hopefully today you'll get refreshed with PD's message on new normal. Today it's going to be about family.
Life in April is a lot different than it was in January, but the weather's pretty much the same. We want to show you how to share your new normals with us, and we'll share some of ours.
14? Oh, it was 16. Okay. Hey!
Oh, now that you've captured your new normal clip, make sure to upload it to our website.
You can even share on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to tag us at Obey Community Church and use the hashtag #NewNormal so we can see every single one of them.
Hi everybody, this is Mr. Andy here coming to you live from my living room. I don't have a fancy announcement shirt like Jeff does, so I just went with the line version of things, trying to keep up. Just wanted to send a quick message out to our kids. First of all, I wanted to let you know that we miss you a lot. We can't wait to see you soon. The next thing we wanted to let you know is we're going to be posting Saturday devotionals. We'll begin this, not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that. It's going to be focused for you kids, giving you a kid's lesson from the curriculum that we use at church. It's okay if mom and dad listen in on it. Maybe you'll like it too, but it's going to be devoted for the kids for that. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to be posting on our website at Obey Community Church. It should show up right about here. And what we'll do is we'll put some resources on there for you to use through your week. Things that your kids can see, things that your kids can do. So we can just have something to do for you. So I'll be talking to you soon. Hope to see you soon, and I miss y'all.
friends, welcome back to this series that we're calling The New Normal. You know, in this series, we're talking about how right now, during this global pandemic, it really is the perfect time to make some shifts in our habits. You know, let's face it, we're all making some pretty major adjustments in our lives, so we might as well leverage it. You know, sometimes unintentionally we lose our focus as to what matters most in life. And when that happens, even when we don't see that it's happening, we need to make an intentional shift in our thinking and create some new habits. And honestly, there really is not a better time to do that than right now. You know, today we're going to talk about how this new normal that we're in right now can really help us have stronger families. And today I'm actually filming from my living room because we're talking about families. And honestly, this is a place where we spend some quality family time. It's where we hang out, especially during this particular season in life. In fact, most nights over the past few weeks, we've done a family movie night right here in this living room. And we're so thankful for it. You know, we've also gone through an awful lot of popcorn. But I'll be honest, this crisis has actually been good for our family. And I hope that it's been good for yours as well. Now, one of the great challenges of our day is to raise great kids in the midst of a 90-mile-an-hour culture. And even when we're together, we're usually driving to soccer practice or some type of performance. Or while we're driving in the car, every kid has their earbuds in and they're listening to something rather than having a family conversation. Or we may be in the same room at home, but we're watching TV and not really interacting at all with each other. And let's face it, we move so fast and we have so many opportunities as well as obligations that it's hard to find time to be together as a family, much less enjoying each other as a family. And all of that right now has kind of come to a screeching halt. So if you've been waiting for a golden opportunity to make some changes in your family, this is it. Now is the time to do so. So the question for us is, how do we create stronger families during this season in life? Well, go ahead and turn in your Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 6. And as you're doing that, let me give you a little bit of the context. God had promised Abraham to make his descendants into this great nation. And generation after generation passes by. Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. Jacob, he has 12 sons, and one of them, his name is Joseph. You know, Joseph ends up in Egypt, and soon the rest of his family does as well. Well, as this family continues to grow, the Egyptians notice this, and they turn them as a family into slaves. And after 400 years of slavery, as many as 3 million Jews looked to God for deliverance through a man named Moses. Well, following that miraculous deliverance, God gives Moses and the nation of Israel the 10 Commandments, as well as many other instructions. And here in Deuteronomy chapter 6, this nation is about to enter into the promised land. But before they do, Moses, who's the patriarch, he gathers the whole nation together and he goes over God's commands again. And then he says this in Deuteronomy 6, verses 1 through 7. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you, to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God, as long as you live by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you. Now notice, he's emphasizing obedience and not just knowledge. He goes on to say, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up. Now, for the next few minutes, I just want to share 2 new normal habits for creating healthy families. Now, by the way, this is for everyone. It's not just for those who have kids that are living at home. See, if you're a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or a human being, did I cover everyone? I think so. Well, then this is for you. So don't check out thinking, well, this doesn't apply to me, because it does. So even though I may talk specifically to parents, I believe that if you lean in and if you listen, you'll discover some stuff for you, even if you're single or even if you don't have kids that live at home right now. Now, this first new normal habit is this. Number 1 is this: love your God. Love your God. This is for everyone. Deuteronomy 6:4-5 says this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. In other words, the Lord, Yahweh, is totally unique. He alone is God. He has no competition. And then Moses goes on to say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. See, the need to love your God has got to be number 1, whether you have kids at home or not. In fact, when Moses said, Hear, O Israel, he was talking to the entire crowd, not just the parents. So if we're going to create a new normal with our families, we really can't afford to forget what's most important: loving God with everything. In fact, listen, parents and grandparents, the best gift that you can give your children and your grandchildren is not to love them first, but to love God first. See, listen, your children are far more likely to follow the direction you set than the directions you give. Let me say that again and allow it to sink in. Your children are far more likely to follow the direction you set than the directions you give. So we need to put God first. And then your children will more than likely do the same. So see, we're to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Not just with some of it or a little bit or a small percentage or just occasionally on Sundays. Instead, we're to love God with everything, every day. Now, I just want to remind you that the context of these verses was that they were about to go into the promised land. And they were about to enjoy houses that they didn't build, vineyards and trees that they didn't plant. And all of a sudden, there would be this tendency to lose their focus on God. And Moses knew. Moses knew that this would lead to a sense of entitlement and that they would forget their dependence on God. You know, that still happens to us today, right? We face entitlement. We have so many things. In fact, when we have so many things at our fingertips, so many opportunities, we're tempted to forget the provision of God. And so we need a new normal when it comes to our families. But here, the problem is that we live in a world where there are lots of things that can distract us from loving God with all of our own heart, right? And we begin to love other things, such as our careers. After all, we've got to provide for our families, right? And we love our hobbies and our entertainment and even our busy pace of life. And all of that, in all of that, our relationships begin to suffer. And when all is said and done, we blink and our kids are grown up. Now, I've shared this before as well as some of this other content, but you need to know that 18 years goes by fast. Did you know that in 18 years there are roughly 936 Sundays? That's 936 weeks. And that sounds like a lot. But listen, if your child is 5, you're down to 676 Sundays before they turn 18. And if your child is 10, you have 416 Sundays left. If your child is 15, you're down to 156 Sundays before they turn 18. My point is, think about how quickly life goes by. No wonder Psalm 90 verse 12 says, "Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom." And let's face it, we need wisdom to raise godly children, and time is going by incredibly fast. In fact, in 18 years, there are 6,570 days, and those days go by quickly. And let's face it, we want to provide our kids with the best opportunities. So we get them involved in soccer and ballet and gymnastics, and all of a sudden we organize their schedules so that they're so busy they can't even think straight. And listen, and when we're so busy and we're all stressed out and we don't have time for family, we end up not having time for church and most importantly, time for God. And what are we teaching our children? See, this isn't just for kids either. This isn't just for parents. This is really for everybody. In fact, let me ask you this question. In fact, you can ask yourself this question. Can I say that I love the Lord my God with all of my heart, with all of my soul, and with all of my strength? And if not, what is filling in that spot where God belongs? In other words, what are you and I loving with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our strength? If it's not God, what is it? See, the best thing that we can do for our families is to love God with all of us. Let me give you an analogy. You know how on an airplane, when the flight attendant is giving the safety instructions, they say something like this. Should the oxygen mask appear above your heads, put on yours before you try to help others with theirs. What they're really saying is, listen, you've got to make sure that you're breathing right before you have any hope of offering help to your children. See, we need to put on our relationship with God first and then breathe in, spiritually speaking, so that we can offer spiritual hope to our families. So the first new normal habit is to love your God. The second new normal habit is this, to lead your family. Lead your family. Now again, if you're not currently a part of a family structure, you can think about who can you lead in an intentional way. And I really want us to see the spiritual leadership represented in these verses. Again, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7 says, "These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up." You see, God's commands are to be on our hearts first, and then we're to impress them on our children. And not to impress our children, but to impress God's commands on our children. In fact, don't try to impress your children. Impress them with God instead. The same is really true for all of us. Don't try to impress people with yourself. Impress them with your God. We're to lead our families. And let's face it, we can only lead them where we walk. So really think of it this way. Your children will walk where you have walked. And where you are walking is where you are leading them. Let me say that again so it can sink in. Your children will walk where you have walked. And where you are walking is where you are leading them. This is why we must learn to lead well. Listen, they're learning habits, both good and bad, from you. They're forming convictions based on your commitments, your priorities, your spending habits. They're learning things based on how you handle conflict, how you handle anger and discouragement and rejection and tragedy and forgiveness, and even how you're handling this particular crisis right now. You've probably heard the expression, the acorn doesn't fall too far from the tree. Well, listen, your little acorns are going to grow up to look a lot like you. If you're happy with that, well then don't do anything different. But if not, it's time to make some changes. So how are we to lead our families spiritually? Well, first of all, we need to model a godly life by loving God. And the second thing we can do is through spiritual conversations. Spiritual conversations. And in this text, Moses gives us 4 perfect times for us to begin intentionally handing our faith off to the next generation. He says this, talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the way, when you lie down, and when you get up. So I just want to talk about these 4 things and kind of put them into our context. Number 1 is this. We're to talk about them. Talk about God's commands. Talk about God himself when you sit at home. When you sit at home. What if we did this during our mealtime? What if you spent some time talking with your kids about spiritual things around the dinner table? Share with them the things that you're learning and how you're growing as a Christ follower. Again, now is the perfect time to start this practice because most likely you're actually having more meals together. I know our family is. So make this one a part of your new normal today. The second one is this. Number 2 is when you walk along the road. Now, here's something else that you can do that's intentional. Why not go for a walk as a family or even go for a drive? And then use this time not only to connect with each other, but also to connect with God. And even when this crisis is over, you can use your drive time when you're driving to school or driving to t-ball practice to have some God-focused discussions. Use the drive time. See, I think what Moses is trying to say here is that we need to work these discussions into the daily rhythm of our day. Number 3 is when you lie down. Here again is another golden opportunity to pass on your faith to your children. Use bedtime as a time to talk with your kids and to pray with them before they go to bed. Talk with them about their day and then be ready to not only listen to them, but also to offer them a godly perspective. Use bedtime. Number 4 is this, is when you get up. When you get up. See, the morning time is another great time. It's a great time to get the day started with some encouraging words. So before they head for the bus, before they grab their laptops and head for the other room, encourage them to give their day to God. Encourage them to spend time in prayer. Encourage them to spend some time in God's Word. But you're going to have to model it for them first. See, all of these activities, mealtime, drive time, bedtime, morning time, they imply that we need to spend both quality and quantity time with our families to teach them about who God is. So take advantage of every opportunity to instruct and to remind your kids what it means to love and to obey God. By the way, another great practice to get into is family devotions. Now, they don't have to be lengthy, they don't have to be complicated. In fact, as you begin, remember that short and sweet is good. In fact, if you're new to this, or maybe you just need some resources to get started, we'll try and help you out. In fact, we'll post some links to several great options for family devotions on our website. Just visit obicommunitychurch.org/newnormal. And on that website, we'll also have links to a lot of other great sites that are for children of all ages, including teenagers. And this will really help you get started having some family devotions. The important part is that you learn to lead your family. Remember, they will walk where you have walked. And where you are walking is where you are leading them. So lead well. Now, listen, if your kids are still at home, start something with them today. You know, if your kids are all grown up, well, why don't you give them a call? Tell them that you love them. And tell them what God is doing in your life. And do it sometime before the sun goes down today. See, now is the perfect time to begin a new normal with your families and as individuals, no matter what season of life you're in. So take time today to love your God and to lead your family. Now, if there's anything that we can do for you, would you feel free to reach out to us? And we'll do what we can to help you and your family grow stronger during this season of our lives. And I hope that you'll join us again next week as we talk more about the new normal. Let me pray for you. God, we thank you so much that you love us. God, we thank you that we can call you a heavenly Father. That God, you have designed us for relationships, primarily for a relationship with you, but then also for relationships with others. God, I pray that you'd help us, that we lean into this opportunity and this responsibility to build godly families. God, I pray that you'd help us as we go through this particular season of life, as many of us were, our normal routines have been disrupted. God, I pray that we would take advantage of this and that we'd create some new normal habits for our lives. God, we thank you that you desire to use this season of our life for our good and for for your glory. So God, I pray that you would help us, that we'd be able to actually look back at this season on our life a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, as this being one of these opportunities, one of these seasons of our life where we grew in our faith and as we were able to lead our families to love you. So God, we give you the glory in advance. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Pastor Dave, for that message. And I just want to say that, as you look at your week and you're going through and you think of those different rhythms and how your day is going, just focus on those things that PD brought up and how we can, kind of navigate this new normal that we have. We do want to say thank you for your generosity. We've had a considerable amount of money coming for the COVID-19 relief fund. We've been able to get some gift cards for some people, purchase food to have at the church, and have a little cushion in case we need to use it somewhere. We also appreciate your regular giving and all the people who have been just continuing to support the church. We really appreciate it. All right, have a good week.